We're moving on to Mr. Sean from South Africa, and let me pull up his bio. Are you ready for us? Right? Pull up your.
Yeah.
You can pull
Yeah.
up your slides while I read out your bio.
Perfect. Good
Yes,
to go. Good to go.
awesome. Mr. Sean Gutkin is Vice President Business Development at All Office in South Africa, where he oversees growth and business opportunities across the continent. He has notable work, includes Investic, which is South African, MTN in Congo, Barclays head office in Ghana, BP Angola, Standard Chartered Bank Uganda, MultiChoice Kenya, Deloitte South Africa, Socialise Limited. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Previously, he has gained experience over the last 15 years in various roles in management and as director and as an entrepreneur, with experience in investing and consulting. He also has experience in the events and entertainment space, where he has executed over 400 events across the public and private sector. He was also part of a tech startup, which received about 9.5 million in funding. Okay, congratulations on all your successes. you
No,
know,
thank you.
and I know this is just a condensed version. I know that.
Sure.
So it's such an honor to have you here and to just bring us your wealth from your wealth of experience, sharing with us technology, e-commerce, retail as best you can share today. So welcome. Please just take it further. Thank you.
No, thank you. Really happy to be here. Some fantastic speakers have shared so much over the past 4 days, today included. Hopefully I can add to that. I know there's a diverse audience watching, both in terms of geography, but also understanding of Africa, which is why I've tried to blend this talk. I'm confident there'll be at least one take-home point for everyone as I share a few insights and perspectives. So I like to keep it interactive either during or at the end of this if there's time. I will be touching on a few areas, again, due to time. Worst fear is speaking too long and not allowing time for questions. So I'll try go quickly. Certain questions have been sent to me through the week, so I thought to unpack them as it may apply to those watching as well. So Africa, I think we should start here, as a lot of people at the summit are very familiar, but there may be those joining wanting to learn more who may not be familiar. A lot of people think about Africa like this. Now, hundreds of people that I've spoken to over the years have referred to Africa as a country. So it's actually a continent comprising of 54 countries. And the diversity of the continent is key that I will touch on later on. So there are various ebbs and flows of optimism about investment in Africa. There is the desire for it and the direction that it will happen, but the question is it happening? Data tells a story that we are still some way away, but I want to share two success stories. Why? Well, the reality is not just to illustrate that money is starting to flow into investing on the continent, but so many of you can further mention these companies. So Stripe was acquired by Paystack for over $200 million. Now, for me, this is significant because beyond the large sum of money, being acquired by a giant company such as Stripe illustrates the sound technology and returns of the company. Another significant funding story from last year is Flutterwave, which has so far received over $170 million of funding to date. Now, payments are a competitive space in Africa. There are various platforms vying to be the next big thing. However, I do believe that instead of being frustrated that other companies are receiving these funding runs than because everyone wants to be seen as how do we get the funds, rather see it as pioneering opportunities that will funnel down with further investments coming into Africa. Now, there are various incubator programs and investors interested in latter stage opportunities. But something that was brought up a few days ago in the comments What about those looking to start out? Now, Toyin doesn't know what I'm about to mention here, but we often look further away from home rather than close to home. And beyond putting on fantastic summits such as this, Toyin does offer various courses. And I would suggest those wanting to learn more to invest the time into this, because while one cannot buy experience, trust me, but you can speed up the learning curve by seeking support and working with one another. And I'd suggest everyone who's got that mindset about wanting to learn more, take the leap and do so. So just touching on apps, and I'll explain a bit why shortly. So it's no surprise that the top apps of 2020 were social apps. One could say they were lucky to have achieved this growth due to the pandemic and everyone wanting to interact. But these are companies that had the infrastructure built to handle scale. Something I found fascinating, apps are often looked at as focusing on young people. However, an astonishing growth occurred amongst Gen X and baby boomers. Now, I'm sure the pandemic has played a part on this, but it's important to not exclude these marks without data. And I'd urge you, if you have an interest in apps, have a look at App Annie. It's seen as the best in class when it comes to looking at data on various apps. Now, why I wanted to touch on apps is mobile devices and audience is very relevant for Africa. Why I say so is 3 countries ranked in the top 10 when it comes to daily time spent using internet via mobile. Now, what this means is it's imperative that your business websites perform well on mobile devices, as a large portion of internet users on the continent are using their mobile devices. It is fitting that Kenya is ranked highest, as I have further points on Kenya, but it is very encouraging to see Nigeria and South Africa up there as well. Now, one of the case studies used when talking about Kenya is M-Pesa. It is Africa's most successful mobile money service. It provides access to financial services to millions of people who have a mobile phone but do not have a bank account or have limited access to banks. Around 50% of the country's GDP is transacted via M-Pesa in Kenya, which is an astonishing statistic. This is merely one of the many avenues of how things are done differently in emerging markets such as Africa. Now, a global overview is useful when discussing e-commerce, and there's an incredible report that I'd urge you to check out from Hootsuite. So obviously, we're aware that travel, mobility, and accommodation has had big restrictions over the past 18 months, but there's been growth in the rest of industries in e-commerce. Now, interestingly enough, from an African perspective, and Vera, you'd be pleased to know this, fashion and beauty grew 81.6% in Kenya compared to the worldwide growth of 27%. Now, there are many other factors to look at when choosing which country to create a strategy for, but data such as this is very encouraging. And again, food and personal care grew, if I'm not mistaken, 92.4% in Kenya compared to the world growth of 41%. Now, e-commerce and retail, in my opinion, should not be looked at separately. They should be viewed in conjunction with one another. I say this because consumers nowadays in the 21st century are so well informed that they see online what they want and often head to the shop to try it, whether it is a shop or a showroom. They are therefore making a decision in their minds before heading to the shop. So I see this as a positive rather than a negative, as it means you have the opportunity to limit your competitors. The person would have walked into your shop or showroom and you've won a large part of the battle. And what you have to then focus on is how to convert them, how to close that sale. And the key for that is make the process simple. An exciting innovation that's come into South Africa the past month or so is Apple Pay and various payments technology that just making the user's journey simple between trying out the product and then wanting to pay and then being satisfied. The negative is if you aren't able to close that sale when they come into your shop or whether they try it out in your showroom, they then leave the shop and they go back online, and then your competition is everyone. So please keep this in mind. Now, what I would say is technology is amazing and is playing a massive role in helping business grow and scale. Us being able to connect from all over the world illustrates it. However, there is a downside with being too connected. Zoom fatigue, and it's fitting presenting currently on Zoom. So always being connected can put one under severe strain. I personally struggle with switching off. As I said, I love technology, but it's tough to switch off, and working from home has not helped. I remember last year, and I'm not proud to share this, but I share this because maybe it can help someone who's getting caught up in that kind of thing. Last year, I had 30 meetings in one day, and the day turned into a 22-hour workday. I was a part of 4 conferences, and part of the conferences, there was a large meeting component. So it was meetings after meetings. Now, sustaining this kind of behavior is not healthy. Now, I'm in the office furniture space, so I sit in an ergonomic chair, yet I'm slightly embarrassed to tell you, but it is the truth and I want to be helpful. I did an ergonomics assessment recently and my score was in the red. Now, if you're wondering why is that, it's not to do with our furniture, but it's got to do with not moving around. Being sedentary for long periods of time is very unhealthy. And as I said, I hold my hands up that I need to take breaks to walk around and move. And hopefully some of you watching this will realize that, to put in breaks in your day as if you were working in an office where you would tend to move around more. So something that a lot of people have asked me is work from home the new reality for Africa? Various tech companies are adopting this policy globally. But some are saying that this is not feasible for non-tech companies. Now, I'm planning on writing an article in the coming months where I interview around 100 companies across the continent via a few-minute questionnaire to find out if their respective companies are heading back to offices or working from home or even a hybrid. Now, why I want to do that is because currently it's a hypothesis about Africa's more prone to being office-based because of certain infrastructure and connectivity limitations. But what I'd like to do is I like to be led by data. So I'd rather like to illustrate this as opposed to just make the assumption. It's also always helpful to understand consumer behavior and adapt accordingly, because if less people are going to be traveling to work, it's not just the office space that's going to be impacted, it's also billboards and advertising and how to reach people. The other side of it is a lot of people who've been cooped up are enjoying the transit to work nowadays when things are starting to become the so-called normal, or as people are tired of hearing, the so-called new normal. So yeah, we've operated across Africa, but we've not operated across all of Africa. And that's why I wanted to share this slide, because while we have while presence is strong, we are still growing. And I like that kind of mentality of we can always improve and continue to grow. But as Scott Ford mentioned yesterday, or it could have been the day before actually, in certain industries, you have 5 to 7 years 5 to 7 year sales cycle. So you see these impressive brands and you think, wow, did this just happen this past week? No, there's no substitute for putting in the time. And we've been around for over 40 years. And I think that's significant for a lot of entrepreneurs and people in business just starting out, that they see the success and they think, wow, and they feel defeated before they even start. As I said, I strongly believe there's no substitute for putting in the work and being out there and building it step by step. And something just interesting to share is a lot of the business that has been done in the past with us has been via referrals. And that just speaks about the trust and the reputation that's been built. And in many areas of life, and partnerships are key, and that includes business. And that is such a big takeaway that we can always keeping in mind, because it's not about the short term. It's not about the one deal. Yes, business people, sales professional, you want to get the sale, you want to move on, but it's about building longer term partnerships. And that's something that I'm a big advocate for in the various industries that I've been in. I'm still in touch with a lot of people, even if we're not currently doing business, still introducing people. Why? Just because it's the relationships that have been built. And as I said, I consider them friends, if not family. And, that's a big reason how we've been able to expand in Africa as well. Now, something else that I think is important for people thinking about doing business on the continent, a big question would be is whether it makes sense setting up an office and a legal entity in a specified country, or working with local representatives as you grow your footprint. It's very industry dependent, but it's something to think about. As I said, put in the time, speak to people, engage, and see what the opportunity is. There's a lot of investors who are currently watching this and thinking about it. It's just doing your due diligence and finding out what is best practice. A big question that I've been asked about as well is bribery, and how is that in Africa? Now, I won't generalize, but there is a bad reputation. And now, personally, I have a hard stance, and it's a no. It's that simple. I'm not interested. I'm not wanting to buy business. I back our product, I back our service, and I'd rather win it through a quoting process. I do believe that if more people apply this approach, the reputation and ease of doing business on the continent improve. I truly do believe that. Now, finally, what I'd like to say is using data to make decisions, that's key. I've got an Apple Watch on my left wrist. I've got an Oura Ring on my right hand. So I like to make data-driven decisions in my personal life, in business. That is key. However, with expansion, sometimes a calculated risk is required. And it's why I've titled the slide, Be Bold. Now, despite the sector being heavily hit, being the hospitality sector, we have recently entered into hospitality as an expansion. You might be thinking, why, Sean, why go through that? Well, there's a few reasons. Securing an outstanding partner in the TEA group, really fortunate to do so, they've supplied hotels such as Marriott, Hilton, Sheraton, and the Park group. But there's very little point talking about belief in Africa and seeing opportunity and then not wanting to play our part. That's a big reason. We have the expertise and experience in terms of high quality service and delivering on time. And the real focus is looking to help the hospitality sector. There's a lot of construction that's been occurring. We want to play our part in helping them open on time and getting business and growing the sector and make 2021 and beyond a good time. So that's ultimately, you've got to marry the two, between wanting to uplift the continent and seeing an opportunity. And I guess that's what an entrepreneurial mindset is at the end of the day, about finding the balance between the two, because I'm a big believer in that. So I hope many of you watching this find a sector and a partner you can work with and trade with Africa. Thank you.
Wow, absolutely fantastic. Wow, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And wow, I'm looking at time now. We still have one more to go, and I want to
Mm,
apologize ahead. But if there are specific questions, please drop it. Maybe we will move that question till after the next speaker. That way we can combine it, because right now, just looking at time, we're on day 4. I know one more day to go, but Sean, I did see your surprise now. Thank you for that. I wasn't expecting it, but thank you for just calling out. Yes, I do teach. Yes, I do coach as well, and all of, because at the end of the day, it's not just enough for us to talk trade with Africa. We have to teach people what it means, and we have to show them how to do it. So aside from hosting events like this once a year, what we do the rest of the year is actually guiding, supporting clients, and teaching people how to build globally relevant brands, and just keep growing the number of successful businesses that we can support. So thank you for calling that out. I didn't ask him to, but I really
mm.
do appreciate it. Um, Miss Joy, are you ready for us? Because what I want to do is you quickly, ma'am, give your presentation, and then we'll combine questions for Mr. Sean and Miss Joy. We'll combine it, and hopefully, Mr. Sean, you're still here to stay. Hopefully, you're not.
Absolutely.
Oh,
I'm not
okay.
going
Thank
anywhere.
you.
No worries.
Thank you. Thank you so much.